Republican Senator Rand Paul says he expects to have enough votes to pass a bill that could block President Trump's tariff power. That vote is happening in just a few hours, and Republican moderates Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins say they will support the measure. Keep in mind, Senator Paul needs a total of 4 Republican senators to back him. Even if it passes, though, this effort likely will be dead on arrival in the House, because Speaker Mike Johnson indicated he could leverage a new change in the rules, I should say, to derail Senator Rand's resolution. Let's discuss with newly elected Republican Congressman Randy Fine of Florida. A month ago, he won a special election for the seat previously held by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Congressman Fine, thank you so much for coming on. Congratulations on your win. I wonder if this bill passes in the Senate, should the resolution get a vote or at least debate in the House?
No, absolutely not. Look, tariffs are apparently a great idea when other countries do them, but when President Trump wants to level the playing field by fighting back, everyone loses their courage. He's trying to create a fundamental reordering in how we think about trade policy in the world. I'm behind him 100%, and this won't go anywhere in the House.
But if Republicans control both chambers of Congress and historically the power to levy tariffs as broadly as President Trump has gone through some congressional oversight, some congressional review, are you not confident that you could reach the same point by going about things the usual way?
I am. Look, he's doing things the new way. If Rand Paul wants to get together with Bernie Sanders to fight Donald Trump, well, that's on him. I know that I'm here to fight Democrats, not to work with Democrats to undermine what President Trump is trying to do. The fact of the matter is trade policy throughout the world has been unfair for decades, and I appreciate President Trump for standing up and fighting back. We've been waiting for this for decades. We finally have a president who will go and get the job done.
So 100 days into his second term, President Biden is blaming recent volatility in the stock market on his predecessor, on Joe Biden. There were headlines right after his election where stocks soared. You see them here. We also have a chart tracking how the S&P has responded to decisions coming from the White House. And you can very clearly follow along after new tariffs. That was nice, I guess. But getting back to my point, on following the S&P, you can clearly track when tariff decisions have been made. There have been major drops in the stock market. So I wonder, what do you make of the trillions lost since Trump took office a second time?
Well, look, markets don't like uncertainty, and I think that's what we're seeing right now, is we're seeing things go up and we're seeing things go down based on that. But I think as we work through these changes, as we get to the level playing field that President Trump is looking for, the markets are going to respond, and I think everything is going to be fine. But there is uncertainty. Look, we had a choice in this country: continue to lose, as Joe Biden allowed us to lose, day after day, week after week, month after month, or to stand up, fight for America, and fight back. And here's why this is so important. See, if the playing field is level, America will win every single time. Joe Biden didn't like that. President Trump wants a level playing field, and we're going to get there.
It's interesting that you describe President Biden's policies as losing, where in the last quarter of his presidency, the economy grew 2.4%. In the first quarter of President Trump's, it contracted by 0.3%. How do you square that?
Well, there's absolutely no way you can blame the first quarter. Keep in mind, President Trump wasn't even president for the first third of that first quarter. So to say that on January 20th, he's responsible for the first 20 days and his economic policies are going to make some sort of magical difference for the next 2 months is a little bit crazy. Those numbers are lagging indicators. So it's just not
tariffs.
True.
Installing tariffs, unlike any we've seen since Smoot-Hawley right before the Great Depression, is a tremendous change to the economy. You don't think there's any tie-in between tariffs and the economy reacting the way that it did?
Well, mathematically, it's impossible because President Trump put in those tariffs on April the 2nd. The first quarter of this country ended on March 31st. So by definition, those tariffs couldn't have had any effect on those results. People have to look at facts. They have to look at numbers. They've got to move away from talking points. You can have concerns about tariffs. People are right to have concerns. But to create a fundamental change in the global order is going to take time. But what we do know is any tariff policy couldn't possibly have had an effect on the first quarter because they weren't in place.
He did install some tariffs before that date. Nevertheless, Congressman, I do want to ask you about the national debt. You have called it an existential threat. Yet you also have backed permanent tax cuts for many Americans, which the administration claims will be covered by tariffs. We ran the numbers, and to offset the lost revenue that the administration and certain Republicans have floated in terms of permanent tax cuts, tariffs would need to reach 100% for all imported goods. That doesn't seem tenable. How does that math make sense?
Well, look, you're right. We do have an existential threat, and I appreciate you pointing that out. I want to solve that existential threat by cutting costs. Here's an interesting statistic for people to look at. There are now more people on Medicaid that aren't in poverty than those who are. Federal programs have grown like crazy. Federal spending has grown like crazy. And so I don't think the solution to the problem is by taxing people more. I believe the solution to the problem is by cutting what we spend, and that's certainly what I'm going to be working on here. But I agree with you on this. It is an existential problem that we have to deal with.
You say that you're looking to make substantial cuts. You specifically mentioned entitlements. Let's talk about the $880 billion that's been outlined for energy and commerce, that committee to cut. They oversee Medicaid. Some Republicans have floated a number, something like $500 billion that they say could be eliminated through cutting waste and fraud. That still leaves you with $300+ billion to cut from entitlements, which President Trump has vowed not to touch. So how does that math then work? You're going to have to cut entitlements. You're going to have to cut some beneficiary programs to people, no?
Well, look, I was on the education and workforce markup yesterday. We were tasked with finding $330 billion in cuts. We not only found that $330 billion, we put another $20 billion into the pot, coming out at over $350 billion. And we do that while making education better and more accessible for people. I've just seen in my month here the amount of waste that takes place in our government is extraordinary. And to be fair, this is liberals' fault and it's conservatives' fault that we have gotten here, but I'm not willing to saddle Americans with higher taxes to solve that problem. We have to do what American families do every day. We have to live within our means, and the way that we do that is cutting spending, and I'm confident that we're going to get it done under Speaker Johnson and President Trump.
So I didn't hear you say specifically that you wouldn't go into these programs. Your district has the second highest number of Social Security beneficiaries and senior citizen beneficiaries in all of Florida, based on the latest data that we could find. Can you guarantee your constituents that they're not going to lose their benefits?
I would never cut Social Security for those people that are on it. I have a 76-year-old blind father who's dependent on his Social Security and Medicare. And he reminded me when I ran for office that I was not too old for him to go find the belt in his closet if I was going to mess with his Social Security. We are not going to mess with anyone's Social Security. They worked for those programs. They worked for those benefits, and they deserve it. But there's a lot of spending that goes on in the federal government that isn't about the monthly check that our retirees get. And to say that we can't tackle that problem because of what we have in Social Security is just not true. But people who are trying to scare old people and saying they're going to lose their Social Security, it's just nonsense. It's never going to happen.
Congressman Randy Fine, we have to leave the conversation there. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.